Hey guys, this is Scott here from Horse Racing Daily, and today we're going to talk about something big that came out for the sport of horse racing today, and that's the movement of the Kentucky Derby from the first Saturday in May all the way until the first Saturday in September. And I'm sure everybody by now has heard of the coronavirus in some way, shape, or form. If you haven't, I don't know how, but it's definitely changed up a lot of things, all different sporting events being canceled, delayed, all this and that. And I think all the horse racing fans, especially the hardcore fans, are kind of waiting to see what was going to happen with the Kentucky Derby. Might take last weekend for the Rebel Stakes. I wasn't even 100% sure they was going to end up running it until it actually finally got ran. So I think everybody's been kind of on edge, wondering if it's going to get canceled, if they're going to keep going with no fans. And I have to agree with Churchill Downs that it's not the same, the Kentucky Derby, without all the fans in attendance. That's just as big as the race itself. And I want to talk about some of the changes that, moving that date to September could happen, whether it be good or bad. Uh, what I'm reading that's good is that the Preakness and Belmont Stakes, they're working on setting that up to match the regular timeline of the Triple Crowns. That'd be September 19th for the Preakness and October 10th for the Belmont. I think that's a good thing because everybody always seems to like that Triple Crown grind. It's just something that's a very unique time of the year for the sport. How the point system, because everybody knows the Kentucky Derby is on a point system, and certain races qualify for certain points, and it was starting to get that time of the year where it's pretty much a win in your end. You had the Florida Derby coming up, Arkansas Derby, Louisiana Derby this coming weekend, which as of right now still looks like it's going. I'm going to wait for another day or two before I try to put out some videos on that, just because I don't want to put a video out and then all of a sudden they cancel it. But it's going to bring up questions about that point system. They're talking about adding more points races, like let's say West Virginia Derby, Ohio Derby, the Haskell Invitational, which already has its winning or end spot for the Breeders' Cup. You got the Jim Dandy, the Curlin Stakes. So it's going to be interesting to see how many points those races are worth. Are they going to be similar to, on a maybe 50-point scale, 100-point scale? Are some going to be considered lesser point races than other ones? And then from a handicapping perspective, it's going to be a definitely unique time for handicapping, because a lot of times you could always go back to some of these races and look at previous patterns and kind of see, like I seen my video on Nadal and Bob Baffert for the Rebel Stakes, how Baffert's always had a history of dominating in that race. Like those patterns, different patterns. Some might stay, but some you might as well just throw out the window, because it's going to be a whole different ball game this year. And some of the horses that have already qualified points-wise are pretty much a lot to qualify. You got to wonder if they're going to come back for these races towards the Kentucky Derby and run. You don't want to crank the horse up too early to not have him run his best race on the first Saturday in September. So it's going to be a bunch of question marks about, how when they already had the horse kind of cranked up, how to bring him back down and then crank him back up again. So I'm kind of curious to see that and how that's going to all play out. But I am glad to see that the Kentucky Derby is still going to be on. I don't mind waiting a few more extra months if there is going to be a Kentucky Derby. And if you want to look on the positive side, you're going to get 2 Kentucky Derbies in a span of a 6-month period, basically. So that'll be good. And hopefully by that time, some of the black eyes that have kind of been brought over the sport the last few months, or actually over the last year, with like, Santa Anita and all the horses dying over the track, that seemed to starting to go away, not be brought up as much. But you never know. You had Jason Service and Jorge Navarro be, indicted for pretty much doping up their horses, kind of like horse races on steroids scandal, I guess you could say. So maybe it'll give time for just all those different black eyes to get over with, and we can get back to racing as usual, because I really like the sport, and I think everybody that takes the time to watch my videos and different horse racing channels together really likes the sport and doesn't want to see it potentially go away over what pretty much amounts to stupidity. But it's going to be interesting the next few days just to see what all unfolds with the Preakness, the Belmont. It's not a Triple Crown race, but you also got the Trevors that's kind of in that point that you got to wonder if they're going to move it forward, backwards, and then are trainers going to skip running horses in the Trevors for the Kentucky Derby or vice versa, or they got to work on getting all that together. So I just can't, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with all this in the next few days. It's going to be a very unique time for horse racing. There's never been a Kentucky Derby all the way in September. I think the latest one was ran June 9th. Yeah, right here. 1949, a June 9th run was necessitated due to the end of World War II. So hopefully everybody that's watching this, or everybody that has families, doesn't have the coronavirus. I hope it goes away, and I hope we can get back on with our normal lives and everything like that. But thanks guys for watching. There'll be more videos to come.